Hey, what's up everyone, my name is Thijs and welcome to DualWielded. I've been working on my commercial game for a year now, and believe it or not, there has been some progress. I've been documenting that progress on this channel. Or well, at least there is some progress shown here and there in between all of the stupid shit. Got a little... Obama, was it you? Doggy, you can Wingo? Now what does a full year of working on my game Incaved look like? Pretty much like this. But that's not exactly what I meant, of course. Well, it all started with a dumb idea for a challenge. Basically all I'd really ever done on my channel before this was show progress on school project games. This worked well in hand with editing, since I could just work on the games on school and work on devlogs during the weekends. The only problem is that none of the projects were ever finished and all of them lasted rather shortly, as school projects commonly do. So I really wanted to start working on my own game. And I came up with this fun challenge of asking some random game idea generator for a game idea for me to work with. So I wanted to start a small project I'm going to try and finish in 3 months maybe.
Right, you've also learned how to get some sleep. I'm sure that will come in very handy.
Yeah, Ron, I know. Okay, I've realized myself I'm still working on it, okay? No need to keep telling-
Watch yourself, stupid Willie, for you'll be in big trouble. Watch me bash you on the head.
Listen, Ron. All you've been doing these past few devlogs is criticize both my work and me personally. It's slowing down the production of these devlogs by me having to watch full playthroughs of several of the early Harry Potter game versions. So the least you could do is add some actual value to these videos, unlike the movies you're in. Am I clear?
That you, Julie.
But I ended up liking Incaved more than I thought. It all started with the random game idea generator giving me the stupidest game idea I'd ever seen. No. So I changed my game studio name to DualWielded and got the sentence I ended up going for. Though I've completely stopped looking at this sentence while working on my game, since I obviously take the game way more seriously at this point and don't want this sentence forcing me to add a bunch of dumb stuff, lowering the overall quality. It's still what the original idea started with. Wonder where I'd be if I'd gone for something like DualWielded instead of Luel. Oh. So I started off by designing the main character. After having done some research about the Cold War, I decided the game would take place in Russia, after a fictional Cold War, where nukes actually were dropped. The civilians would take shelter in caves, which connected well with the mining for titanium part in the sentence. This is the dude I came up with. I added a giant backpack, more or less just to add more recognizability to the character, the gas mask obviously, and fur covering his shoulders, giving the character a bit of a Russian vibe. I decided I'd animate the character using joints, since frame-by-frame animation just takes so much longer. And after the first devlog, I finished with the most bare-bones character controller, a character design, and functioning animations. Almost nothing at all really, but it gets faster from here. Speedy mega bonus round! Sprinting is now a thing, including a stamina bar. Interactable titanium ore, okay, ground graphics. Weapons which don't even function yet. Glow, you can now pick up items. Where'd they go? Where'd they go? What? I added an inventory system too? Items can be used, thrown away, there's even item info! Now what is this game still missing? Just anything, what do you think? So, I mean, I know we're thinking the same thing, okay? A Wii! You can now use a Wii to... Ball! With that all working well, the game didn't have any combat features yet, so I added the most basic enemy I could think of for now. A blind, mutated giant mole rat which just walks. Until it can't anymore, and then it just keeps walking anyways. I made sure to not make the encounters feel repetitive, at least visually for now. Something that can easily take you out of the world of a game is when realistic games place the same enemies next to each other and they're completely identical. This isn't a problem in Mario games at all because they're cartoony and unrealistic, but oh, I swear to God, Dark Souls. So the different body parts of the enemy all have mutations of different places and weight. There's a total of 64 combination possibilities for the enemy to look like. These different sprites for the same object or creature are prominent throughout the rest of the game too. Like there's different titanium ore sprites and rubbish pile sprites, which is where items can be found. So if you're directly in front of an enemy, he bites you, dealing some knockback as well. The hammer has 3 attacks which can be chained together for an ultra combo! In between these more main mechanics, there's a lot of small stuff that doesn't really need much of an explanation at all, so here's another speedy bonus round number 2! Jumping now finally has an animation, finally, including a landing animation. There's now dust particles when you walk, sprint, hit the ground with a hammer, etc. There's torches now, the camera now follows the player for a bigger testing level. The cave is now full of stalagmites and stalactites in the way of a parallax effect, adding more depth to the game. You can now die in the game. Okay, you can now die. There's NPCs now, which you can listen to, but they can also die in the game. Okay, now they can die. I love it when games allow you to have a hub you can expand with NPCs you come across, and maybe even building new houses for them in the hub. So I really wanted to make a hub that would allow for that as well, making sure that instead of just killing Victor, we could also ask him to come vibe with us. So for the hub, I created a whole new tile set and some new NPCs that would always chill there. Pretty much everything I did for the hub so far was work on art, because I decorated the hub with a lot of stuff, but I didn't come far with many new mechanics so far. I have big plans for it with the whole NPC system I'm going for, allowing you to hire NPCs you find in levels. They'll work for you and provide you with help, defined by their profession. If they're a chef, they can make you food items that heal you. If they're a musician, they can provide music, etc. If you die, however, time passes, and the NPCs in your hub get closer to their own final breath. There will be ways for you to prevent your NPCs from dying, but replacing is the more efficient option. This mechanic is something that would need more thought, so I figured I would come back to it later, after the main game loop was finished. This would allow me to really think of the different professions, what the player needs and wants from them, how many NPCs the player should come across, what their death rate should be, etc. So instead I dozed off from thinking about mechanics and just started drawing. A lot. This main menu took me so long. I like switching between drawings and adding mechanics a lot. Drawing is much more chill and relaxing to me. So after I finished the main menu and got everything working, I added this projectile shooting bat. The only problem is the player has no way to deal with this yet. So here comes blocking. It's a fairly simple animation that spawns a hitbox in front of the player. But instead of just blocking, it also acts as a parry. Parrying in games basically means countering an enemy attack with good to perfect timing. I decided to have this combined with the block, having the first few frames act as a parry. This way the player can just block an incoming attack if they want to, but there's also a choice to be made for a higher risk, higher reward parry, which instead of just removing the damage the player would normally get from the attack, this would also stun the enemy. Hitting the enemy while it's stunned would deal more damage. After this, I also added a dodge roll as a third way to deal with enemy attacks. Giving more options to the player with different outcomes makes for a way better combat system in my opinion, since now it's not just reaction time to not get hit, but it's also quick thinking. With the combat already being much more interesting now, I decided to add a dog. Yeah, I don't really know why. Okay, actually I do. Look at this. Oh my, look at this. The dog can only be found in the hub and just follows the player around. It can be named, the name showing up on the doghouse. The dog is a way to brighten the mood in the game. With some depressing stuff happening in the cave at any time, losing hope of survival, there's this little guy to brighten the mood. Look at this dude. As of now, I don't have any plans to let the dog venture out of the hub, but you never know, because I understand very well that, yeah, it would be cool to have him as a companion. Now this is the moment where I throw a lot of work out of the window. Yeah, I decided to instead work on the Wii minigame some more. Fuck you, man! No, I figured that the sprite of the character didn't really fit the game that well. I wanted to go for a more realistic feeling, so I completely remade the character, including all of the 527 animations I made prior. The character looks a lot better now, and I'm very happy with what he looks like now. This is also when I decided to add a whole new animation to the character, helping with making it feel more realistic.
Why do women only like jerks who treat them like shit?
Why do guys only want...
Oh, this took so long to make, but there's a sick turning animation now. The new character is great, but there's more visual updates I wanted to work on to make for a more interesting, more unique, and also just straight up cooler art style. Anything that's a solid object or creature is made out of pixel art. but everything else is not. Fire now looks realistic, including the smoke. There's dust, making the air in the cave feel way more dense. There's random spots that can now drop a bit of dust and smoke, and all of this looks realistic. I'm planning to also make the water look realistic later on, for instance, as well as wet surfaces, and the lighting itself should be way more realistic and detailed. At least that's what my vision is right now. I'm super hyped for the final result of this, but I decided that I would first finish the movement and combat. These are the absolute main mechanics, and with them finished I could work on actual level design, enemies and even bosses that function well with both the combat and movement mechanics of the game. This would also allow me to work more on the hub and the NPC system, new environments, etc. Starting with movement, I decided to add a wall jump mechanic, as well as making the jump itself feel more responsive and less floaty. This is basically where I am right now. The plans for the upcoming 4 devlogs is to finish the movement mechanics, meaning adding a vaulting mechanic and a grappling hook, as well as finishing the combat, meaning well-balanced stamina management, ranged weapons, well-functioning enemies, etc. Please keep in mind, by the way, that I'm a full-time uni student. All of the work I did for this game was in my spare time. Basically my weekends and times where I didn't have to spend all night writing documents for school. It also doesn't really help that I spent so much time on these devlogs, obviously, that doesn't make production go faster. Or at least that's what you think. Because I can assure you that I wouldn't still be working on this project if it weren't for the fun I had in making devlogs, reading comments, and growing a little community. So thank you all for that. Now it's time for me to pass the mic on to you, Nintendo Direct guy.
今年の10月に発売を予定されていますので、今後の続報にご期待ください。ここからは
Guys, my good friend Andrew released their free game, Tappo Tales, on Steam. You might have heard me talk about it before, but it's now finally out. Look at the amazing art. For real though. This duck, this otter, that eel guy. Jesus Christ! Oh my god. Suck my butt. I need to take a break. Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, doing pretty well. I was actually just playing Tappo Tales, and first of all, I mean,
really?
yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot. But there's this boss. I think it's near the end of the game. I think it's the final boss, probably. It's this duck.
Wait.
I've been playing for 6 hours now. I'm trying to beat him, working on my.
Thais, wait. Did you say duck? Thais, that's the first boss. Like legit, that is the first boss. I mean, I know my game isn't super easy, but almost everyone managed to beat the game in like an hour. Literally yesterday, I gave this game to my cousin, and he's like 10, and he managed to beat the game so quickly.
Well,